that was not what you expected in Wyoming. Hello again, everybody. This is Tiger Sidelines on MC22 alongside Gabe DeArmond and Dave Matter. I'm Bo Bayman. The football season kicks off for the 2019 championship season for the Missouri Tigers, and the Tigers lose 37-31 in Wyoming. We have tons of tweets coming up. You tweeted during the game, you tweeted after the game. You've tweeted really for 4 days, to be honest with you, but just a great start for Barry Odom's team, and then it all went downhill.
Which makes it hard to say they weren't ready or prepared for the game. They looked pretty ready in the first quarter, 14-0, and it seemed like it just happened really easily. Yeah. And then the second quarter of doom, and like it was a sequel to last year's South Carolina third quarter of doom. I think it was worse too, because you can't blame the weather on this one. Everything that could go wrong went wrong, and it just seemed like everybody freaks out, and they can't recapture momentum at all.
As we recap the game, they go up 14-0, hold them again. The Cowboys punt. Missouri does nothing with it. And then Wyoming gets 3. The Kelly Bryant fumble that's returned for a touchdown changes the whole complexion.
That was the play where I kind of thought, oh, now we got something here.
Yeah.
You know, I still didn't think they were going to lose at that point. That didn't come more till the Roundtree fumble. I was pretty convinced they were going to lose at that point. But, I mean, it was a combination of terrible plays and also just horrible luck. I mean, both fumbles bounce right to a Wyoming guy that's on the run. You know, Albert with an offensive pass interference penalty, Bryant with a horse collar after making a great play. Like, they were bad, and they also had bad luck. And it took all of that to lose the game because they were still within 20 yards of winning it.
And they go down, they give up huge plays on the ground. The defense, you know, when the runner breaks 3, you don't see anybody in the picture anymore.
Right.
I mean, they're just gone, and they're 60-yard touchdowns, 70-yard touchdowns. And it just was an avalanche on Saturday.
Right, and a lot of the reaction was, oh, more of the same Missouri defense. Like, no, this is worse.
Opposite.
It's the opposite, because they were a good rush defense last year. That's why I thought going into this game, if they're kind of the same defense they were a year ago, there's no way they lose this, because they were very solid against the run. Until you throw some misdirection plays, and then all of a sudden you have a mobile quarterback who's a threat. Now they can't stop him at all.
A threat to run.
Right.
He was zero threat to throw, which was the worst part about it. I mean, Missouri knew what they were going to do. Wyoming told them what they wanted to do, and then they just went out in there and did it. And Wyoming was the better team. I mean, they kicked Missouri up and down the field on both sides of the football. And if they could complete a forward pass, if they don't get a terrible call against them on a fumble, Wyoming, that game could have been over at the start of the fourth quarter.
No doubt about it. So if you go 3 up, 3 down, 3 up was the first quarter, the passing, offense, and defense, the special teams, which we talked about last week. We said, hey, how's that going to be? It was fine.
That was at least level. It didn't kill him.
Didn't kill him. There was a big, Rashad Floyd had a big return when they needed it.
He also had one that kind of did kill him. I mean, when he tried to catch it, luckily he didn't touch it, but it went out of bounds at the 2-yard line. Right. And in the end, with that, the only thing it really did was waste 2.5 minutes of clock because Cam Scott dropped a first down and they just went nowhere.
Let's talk about 3 down. 3 up, 3 down, the tackling terrible. The punt decision, I didn't get.
It didn't hurt him in the end.
In the end, it worked out, so none of us asked about it. But yeah, at the moment, I'm going, you can't do this. But it worked.
It was blind faith in a defense that hadn't really done anything at that point.
And obviously the turnover margin, you go -3. You have the fumble that goes for a touchdown. You have a fumble as you're going in for a touchdown that turns into 3 points for them. And then you have a cross-the-field throw across your body that's an interception.
And you can easily argue 3 turnovers, 17 points. Right. I mean, minimum 13, even if Missouri just kicks a field goal instead of Bryant throwing the
I think if Roundtree gets in the end zone, it's tied at halftime. Missouri gets the ball first. It's an absolutely different game. If they march 80 yards or whatever and get a touchdown to win that sideline's feeling good. I think they keep running the ball. Maybe the line of scrimmage opens up a little bit for both the offense and the defense, and it's a different game.
Roundtree fumbles and didn't really see the field after that, did he?
Had 1 carry after that. And it was interesting because I asked Barry Odom about it after the game, and he said, well, Tyler Beatty fit what we wanted to do better, which made sense to me because he's the receiving threat. He's a better pass blocker. That made sense. But then both Derek Dooley and Cornell Ford said yesterday, no, Roundtree wasn't playing well, and Beatty was, so we played Beatty.
And Beatty did fit what they wanted to do. And we saw him, especially in that last drive, over the middle, dump it to him, get a first down. And it was working well. as they were trying to make the comeback, to me, the biggest play was the sack.
Yeah, and it was it wasn't like a classic sack where the offensive tackle got beat badly. Bryant kind of got caught up and got tripped, and probably should have thrown it away. Should have thrown it to Beatty. Would have had, if not a first down, at least move the ball a little bit forward. It was a great start to that drive. I think he completed 5 of 6 passes, moved the chains, and then they got to the red zone and nothing worked at all.
Well, I also thought Missouri panicked a little bit. I mean, you're in 2nd and 5 from the 20-yard line with 45 seconds left. You can run the football.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't have to throw every down. The clock is no longer a factor because it stops on the first down. I mean, if you get to the 20-yard line with 45 seconds left, you're almost at that point going, we can't score too fast, you know? But they insisted on throwing every down, and then they got the sack, that terrible 3rd down throw, and frankly, a terrible 4th down.
Yeah, I think they lost a little confidence in the quarterback run, too, at that point, because even if you don't want to give it to Beatty, you've got a quarterback back there who's a dangerous runner. He looked good in the first quarter running the ball. Yeah. After that, he kind of stopped.
And if you throw in a quarterback draw there where it's been pass, he drops back and then takes off, it shows him something different. Let's talk about something that I never thought would happen. Missouri got kicked on both sides of the ball in the trenches.
I was shocked that the offensive line got pushed around so much. Those guys had such a huge size advantage on Wyoming and an experience advantage. Wyoming was starting a bunch of new guys, and they were much smaller than Missouri. And the first series, like, okay, this is how it should look. After that, they got pushed around.
But they pass blocked well.
They pass blocked fine.
I mean, Brian only had the 1 sack.
Right. But the physical part of it, when you really got to get down and get to the second level and move people, they couldn't do that.
We're going to talk plenty more in the tweets. Let's just touch on a couple other things. The reaction to the rest of the SEC, especially a terrible SEC East week when you talk about Georgia State beating Tennessee, South Carolina losing to North Carolina. It was a rough week for the SEC.
Can we quit pretending that because Alabama and Georgia are really good, that everybody else in the SEC is good? Like, the SEC had a terrible week. They lost more non-conference games, I think, than they did all of last year in this to unranked teams. And Alabama and Georgia being really good doesn't mean that the bottom 7 teams in this league are any good. It looked bad.
Right, and it could be we could be talking about LSU in the mix if they beat Texas this weekend. So I think there could be 3-4 teams at the top.
Maybe Auburn eventually.
But the middle to the bottom is not, I don't think it has what it has been at all.
Because even Mississippi State looked bad.
Yeah.
Kentucky, they won, but they didn't blow anybody away.
Arkansas beat Portland State.
Well, there
by
you go.
7.
Yeah, by 7 points. Mizzou does have to rebound this week with, it's not like they're playing SEMO. And I'm not saying West Virginia had a good week 1.
No.
But nevertheless, they got to rebound and rebound fast.
Well, if they did overlook Wyoming, and I think some players absolutely did.
At least once they got up 14-9.
Then I think it's probably a good thing they have a name opponent coming in. If this were Troy, that's a dangerous game because Troy's feeling really confident. Now you got somebody that at least, hey, if Wyoming didn't get your attention, West Virginia better.
Right, because West Virginia still has guys. Right. I mean, they're not supposed to be any good, but look, Wyoming doesn't have to ruin the season. You lose this game, you're in danger of like wheels come off disaster territory. And then we are talking about people's jobs at the end of the year.
Well, speaking of disaster area, let's check Twitter here when we come back. Your tweets. We were at Tiger Sidelines and we got a lot of tweets. We'll review them all when we come back. You're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Dave Matter, Gabe DeArmond, and I'm Bo Bayman. The tweet machine was hot and heavy this past weekend. We're at Tiger Sidelines, and we're going to run through them. We said another terrible showing after Mizzou has a long time to prepare, which has been kind of a Barry Odom staple. I think I saw 0-7 now when he's had more than a normal week.
Against FBS. And it started off as a small sample size, stat. Now it's a kind of a trend.
7's a thing.
Yeah, and so somebody says poor execution in every aspect, something that continues to be huge issues on D, missed tackles. Giving the ball carrier quarterback additional opportunities, at least 3 drives would have ended if the tackle was finished. And when we talk about those long runs, a couple of missed tackles or a stiff arm, and bang, they were gone.
13 missed tackles, the biggest culprits. Cale Garrett, your best defender. Josh Bledsoe and Tyree Gillespie, who they told us 2 weeks ago might be the best safeties they've ever coached.
Right.
So.
I want to cut Cale a little slack. He had 16, which is more than any Power 5 player in the country had. So he made all the stops he needed to make except for that one big one.
Yeah, big one. Had the running back wide open at the first down line on the last play, no one within 10 yards. Right in the middle of the field with the move, he might have scored.
Alberto was open on that play too.
Yep.
And look, bullets are flying there. You're not blaming a guy who threw for 423 yards for losing the game, but there were three curious decisions on that last drive.
And Joe and Ryan continue on and saying, I know it's easy to get frustrated. I think the frustrating thing about the last play was when you go back and you see Alberto open and you see Beatty open, and he throws into triple coverage.
Yeah, that was the puzzling one. You throw to your shortest receiver, who's got at least a guy in front of him and a guy behind him. It wasn't a very wise decision.
They said they were focused on. It hurts like Indiana lost in 2014. What was it? 17-point favorites going in, and you end up losing.
Yeah, it was very similar. That was at home. I mean,
but this is the biggest favorite they've been in lost in at least 13 years. I couldn't go back any further than that. But.
Honestly, this game was only practice. If you're not playing for a national championship, which they won't, it doesn't mean anything. Conference games are the ones that matter.
Then why play? I mean, if they keep score, it matters.
If that were true, people wouldn't still talk about Troy in 2004.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, this doesn't technically take anything off the table that was realistic, but what it does take off the table is, you think you're good enough to go win those conference games when you can't beat Wyoming?
Right.
Somebody talking about the win last year at Florida, and they were talking about how Wyoming completed just 6 passes and a lot of fire going at the defense. As we continue to look at all these tweets, I think that it's kind of warranted. The defense did not play well.
Well, and Barry said last Tuesday before the game, they didn't tackle much at all in camp. And I reminded him this Tuesday, you did say that. And and Ryan Walters said, hey, that part of that was just they didn't have a lot of depth at, I guess, linebacker. They didn't want, it's a fine line. Do you want to tackle and beat these guys up in August for, to get them ready for the season when they can get hurt? Or do you want to have them go into the season and not be that crisp?
That's the concerning thing to me. They played one reserve linebacker, 3 snaps. He had a knee injury. They played one reserve safety. They played one reserve cornerback. I mean, where are the answers here?
Yeah.
It's not like there's guys lining up behind these guys who didn't get the job done.
And Gabe, I heard you ask Barry yesterday about, hey, not many freshmen played. Was it just because of circumstances? He's like, yeah, that was circumstance.
And I get the freshmen, but again, you've got upperclassmen on the depth chart. Adam Sparks doesn't see the field. Rashad Floyd doesn't see the field. Jamal Brooks doesn't see the field. I mean, so what that tells me is we don't think we have second stringers who can go play in a close game.
Big E was on fire. He could spit fire about now. But I won't, because my wife will kill me for burning the house down over an MU game. My question to all of you, should we as fans just come to expect this from the Odom regime from now on in September after a bye or before bowl games? With extra times, you don't seem ready.
It's happened every time, so you probably should expect. And I think, Barry's real good at the culture, the locker room. Guys like him and want to play for him. But, this is a trend now. You can't ignore this and pretend it's not happening. There's something that's not working on.
And I know that it's a very popular thing to say. It's why are they so bad in the first half of the year and not in November? The schedule is a factor.
Not today.
Not in this one. I look at the winning percentages of those teams they played in the first half is so much better than the teams at the end. But Wyoming flips that narrative a little bit. Unless they go 12-0, then they fit. But
seems unlikely.
It seems unlikely. Yes.
Barry Odom's not getting fired. I'm not calling for it, but does something need to change going forward? Preparation, lineup change, because this ain't working. And to Big E's point, and sort of the bigger thing that everybody's talking about, is how this torpedoes the fan interest in this whole season.
And you've got 5 straight home games coming up, and there's a lot of people that are going, why would I pay to do this? And I understand that, but look, you make your personnel decisions in the offseason. And they not only kept Odom, they extended him and gave him a raise. They did the same thing with Ryan Walters. But to me, that's the guy that if this doesn't turn around, if Barry Odom wants to tie his boat to Ryan Walters, that's fine. But that defense has been bad for a while. That's got to get better.
And that's what Big E says here. He was the defensive coordinator at Memphis, came back to Mizzou as the defensive coordinator, did Barry Odom, and now
what's the point here, Big E? We know his bio.
Yeah, but that's what a lot of fans have said. When are we going to stop calling him defensive-minded coach? I mean, he's still defensive-minded. It's just that his defense didn't play well.
He made an interesting comment how he's not going to step into the defensive staff meeting and
Yep.
tell them what to do. And the immediate
I'm not
response,
sure I believe that.
The immediate response from a lot of fans was, "Why not? You're their boss, and that's your side of the ball." So maybe it comes to that if this happens again.
He better scrap that 4-2-5 defense real quick. You remember he tried it his first year.
This is a misconception that they've called it a 4-2-5, and they have a third linebacker that they call a safety. And so everybody thinks they're playing a nickel defense and 3 deep. They're not. Khalil Oliver and Ronell Perkins are lining up as linebackers. They're just smaller than other linebackers, but they theoretically are faster. It's not the fact they're playing a 4-2-5. It's the fact that none of the guys play.
And there's no scheme problem when Cale Garrett falls down and misses the
or when Jordan
quarterback.
Ulmer runs into him.
Right.
Yeah, right.
They're in position to make plays.
And on the one big run, like DeMarcus Acey was in position, and he followed a quarterback who didn't have the ball, and the running back who did have the ball ran right where he was.
Yep.
So it's not, I'm not saying the scheme's perfect, but it's not as simple as, well, they can't run a 4-2-5.
I'm still on the Barry Odom train, and I don't know what these fans want because we're not in a position to contend for a national title. This season might not mean a thing, and these fans should know that Mizzou does this every year. It's nothing new.
I think they want to not lose to Wyoming based
Right.
on what I'm hearing.
Right. The fluctuating standards for some fans with this program is crazy, but that's come to be expected.
Tom says play calling the last 2 games on the final drive. Of course, the bowl game against Oklahoma State.
I would have liked to see the Drew Lock play called for Kelly Bryant.
You're right. Good point. American says Ryan Walters is not qualified to be a Power 5 secondary coach, much less a defensive
This is
coordinator.
what I like, the things that are backed up with facts and logic and not pure emotion.
Yeah.
And when they made their run last year and they won 4 games in a row, it was their defense that carried them. The offense was playing the same as it had during the losses. Their defense was much better last year.
Just here to prove that fans only come out of the woodwork for Tiger Sidelines when a big loss happens.
This is our biggest day.
Hello to our 15 new fans. Love that. Why wasn't Albert O targeted earlier and more often in Wyoming?
Derek Dooley gave a pretty interesting answer when he was asked that the other day. He said, "We didn't think he'd play that much. He was hurt so much in camp. He looked okay early. He said he wasn't really part of the game plan."
But then it occurred to me, but once he's out there and continues to be out there, like you don't script 75 plays.
Right.
You could have. That said, look, I don't think Albert played his best game either.
No.
Hey guys, here's my question. Will Odom ever get this defense playing consistently good football for an entire season?
Maybe next year.
Not many teams do
Not right now.
consistently.
That's true.
Why didn't Adam Sparks get on the field? He's our best run defense corner.
It's fair.
Yeah, I wonder why. This game didn't come down to the corners.
Right,
that
I mean, they
much,
played
but
fine,
still,
but,
yeah.
Yet another early season letdown, says Robert. Why should fans watch the West Virginia game?
I mean,
you're
don't
fans.
if you don't want to.
Right.
Like but you can't. Most people don't give up after one game. But if you don't want to watch,
That's the right. But if you're a Missouri fan, you would think you'd still be interested in watching the next game. I mean, it shouldn't always be contingent on just what happened last week.
There are 11 left.
Right.
Yeah. Odom should have the training wheels off by now. People saying that the team will be fine bothers me because, yes, it might be true, and I understand upsets happen, but Wyoming Week 1 is just not a game you can lose year 4 as a coach.
I agree.
Yeah,
That's right.
and I think we were pretty happy, not to hear after the game. I was really proud of the way they came back because I wasn't going to write that because that loss is. I don't want to say it's not okay or it's inexcusable because those are buzzwords, but you can't lose that game.
No, absolutely. Jason says, after week 1, could you make one change on the depth chart? If you could, who would it be? And what are they getting wrong?
It's hard to say.
I mean, I would put somebody at defensive end, but who?
Justin Smith?
You're assuming there are better players. Right. If Sheldon can come back, or Coney
Shane
Ely,
Wright,
I'd put him out
Shane
there.
Wright needs a team.
But you have to believe that the coaches are putting the guys they think are the best players out there.
And the D-line got housed on Saturday. The D-line zoo needs to pick it up. How worried should we be about Mizzou's rush defense and the whole defensive line as a whole, says Jake. Seems the DNs could never set the edge, and the interior D got pushed
I'd
around.
be very concerned. That's a Wyoming offensive line.
And I would say if you paid attention to everything we were writing in camp, we saw nothing that indicated the defensive ends weren't a huge problem.
Right.
We said they were coming into camp. We said they were coming out of camp, and they showed it on Saturday night.
The guys
it's a
that
problem.
started didn't do much, and they didn't really take them out much because they don't have anybody else. Like
Right.
Trey Williams, that's it.
I mean, the one change I'd make is I'd go to freshman Isaiah McGuire, Darius Robinson. I would go to all the freshmen and say, don't think you're not going to play. Like, if you're good in practice this week, we will start you because those guys didn't do anything.
Should we be worried that Odom's ceiling may be around 8 wins? It doesn't seem like the talent level makes a difference.
I remember when people said that about Gary.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden 10 wins wasn't enough for some people. So you just, I don't know about ceilings.
And guess what? You win 8 games at Missouri every year in the SEC. You're going to keep your job for life.
That's right. Can we just go ahead and play Clemson for the Natty?
Clemson looked a little off on Saturday. You never know.
Tyler says, when do we shed the label of defensive head coach for Barry Odom? Just what we were talking about, because he isn't good at coaching defense. I think he's an awesome guy and a motivator, but as far as coaching, he's been pretty unimpressive.
Fair.
I mean, what can you say? Who could MU get as a coach if we replace him?
A little early for this one.
Yeah, it's only week 1.
I only see this guy's tweets on Tiger Sidelines. I can't see him on my regular Twitter.
Care to update your guesses on this year's Mizzou football win-loss record?
I don't like doing this. One less. I don't like doing this. I mean, it's too easy when you already know one of the answers.
Well, and again, just because they lost to Wyoming doesn't mean that every team that's better than Wyoming is going to beat them. Other teams are going to have off days. They're going to play better. Like, they play games for a reason.
And let's not forget, we all had Barry Odom buried, and they lost to Kentucky.
Yeah.
And 6 days later, they had the best win this program's had in a while. So, not to say that that's going to happen this time, but things can happen quickly.
They still have to play.
And they got to play West Virginia. One thing I do want to point out, Dave, I think I saw this, 5-19 when they don't score 40?
That's
that
under
right?
Barry. That's not a good sign. That is a
Better
sign.
go get 40.
That's like a Mike Leach type stat. Like, you need to be really prolific on offense to have a shot at winning.
And Gabe and I were talking, they've scored 30 plus the last 2 games and lost both of them.
Not a good sign.
Not great.
Oklahoma, and they've been playing Cowboys both times too. They get the Mountaineers this week. We'll talk about a few other things, including some wins for the Black and Gold. When we come back, you're watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22. Final segment of Tiger Sidelines as we sort of cool off here at MC22. Gabe DeArmond, Dave Matter, and I'm Bo Bayman. A couple of things that did happen this weekend that were positive. The soccer team won 2 matches, including a 3-2 double overtime winner against Xavier. They will host Loyola Chicago on Sunday. And then, of course, the volleyball team was supposed to be in Puerto Rico. We talked about that last week. Hurricane Dorian got in the way, so they made it all the way to Miami. Played the Hurricanes in Miami, won in 4 sets, and then turned around and came back. And so you have to think that maybe they were thinking they'd get 3 to 4 matches, and they only have the 1, but they come back with a winning record. And next up for them is the Dayton Invitational. I think they should be okay weather-wise there in Dayton.
No
You would
Hurricanes
think
in
so.
Dayton.
They go against number 15 Michigan, Dayton, and Northern Illinois. Let's talk some football. A couple of big games this week. First, you got Texas A&M and Clemson.
Yeah.
I think that'll be a very good game.
I really don't. It's at Clemson. Clemson knows that A&M almost beat them last year. Clemson, frankly, didn't play all that well and won by 38 points. I think this game's over early third quarter.
It could be. You know, if it's close, it's a statement game. A&M doesn't have to win this game to get some respect. And if they do, then all of a sudden, I think if you're Alabama, you're LSU, you're looking over your shoulder like this division just got a little harder.
This is kind of where Clemson is as a program. Like, we can coast and win most games, and then when somebody shows up that maybe can challenge us, we're going to blow the doors off of them like they did. I mean, they've won 11 games in a row by 20 points.
We'll put the hammer down. The other one, you mentioned LSU. They play Texas this week. That'll be intriguing as well.
I mean, both of these programs haven't really been that nationally relevant in a while, but the winner suddenly is and can start thinking about maybe making a push for the playoffs. Oklahoma's still going to be really tough to beat in the Big 12, but this is a huge chance for Texas.
Let's talk about West Virginia and Missouri. Missouri has to bounce back. I mean, this is as close to, if it's not a must-win, for Barry Odom.
Yeah, it's really important. And, you know, the line came out, and Missouri's favored by about 2 touchdowns. And obviously the immediate response from Missouri fans is, I'm going to bet against Missouri and make $1 million. But like West Virginia beat James Madison, an FCS program, by 7 points and ran for 24 yards last week. I mean, this is supposed to. There are people that are wondering if this team is worse than Kansas in the Big 12.
Yeah, and new coach, new quarterback, Austin Kendall, grad transfer from Oklahoma. Looked pretty good in their first game, but he should look good. It's James Madison, who's a good FCS team, but it shouldn't matter. So yeah, I think this game. I don't know about winning by 2 touchdowns, but I think Missouri, if they're the team we thought they were prior to kickoff or after the first quarter, then yeah, they should win this game.
And his teams have always been the best when everybody said, well, they're done.
Right.
They've always come out and played well. Now, look, everybody can have one bad game, but you should see a much better effort. Even if they win, but you see sloppy penalties and turnovers and stuff, you're going to go, this team's not very good.
Right. Yeah. It'll be interesting, too, if something disastrous happens early and they go down to see what happens in the stands at Faurot Field on Saturday. Okay, that will do it for this edition of Tiger Sidelines. Want to thank you for watching. We want to thank Bill and Matt and Brian behind the scenes. That's Gabe DeArmond and Dave Matter. I'm Bo Bayman. Hopefully much happier times this Saturday and this time next week. Thank you for watching Tiger Sidelines on MC22.